What is going on, everyone? This is Miles Dompier, and welcome to the 109th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined once again by the host of the Xbox Expansion Pass, an all-around awesome dude, Luke Lohr. Luke, how you doing on this beautiful pre-Xbox game showcase Saturday?
Oh, Miles Dompier, I am feeling good. I'm excited. We are less than a day away. Oh man, like I'm jittery. I didn't expect to be jittery. I'm jittery.
You feeling it in your down to your core, in your bones then?
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting to. I was like, you know what? I saw the PlayStation showcase. I gave my ratings for that. I saw the Summer Game Fest ratings for that. I was like, I'm looking forward to Xbox. I woke up this morning and I feel fire, man. I'm like, let's friggin' go.
Yes, if you are watching live, this is Xbox Game Showcase Eve. The big show is tomorrow, Sunday, June 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about what could be there. And if you're listening to the audio versions, which publish on Mondays, you can laugh at all of our predictions and everything we got wrong. But for those tuning in live, there's a lot to dive into. We're going to be sharing our impressions of Summer Game Fest, what we liked, what we didn't like. We're going to be talking about a couple unfortunate leaks that happened ahead of the Xbox Game Showcase. We're going to be talking about last-minute predictions for the show from me, Luke, and you. If you have predictions, jump in the Xbox Chatterday Discord. The link is in the description, or drop them in the chat here because we want to hear your wild and crazy predictions for the big Xbox show. But before we dive into all of that, Luke, for the amazing folks joining us live and listening on audio services, give us a quick breakdown of who you are and where folks can find you.
Oh, absolutely, man. So my name's Luke Lohr. I host the Xbox Expansion Pass, which is a podcast that simultaneously focuses on developer interviews, 100+ developer interviews to date. A number of them being Xbox exclusives, people like Ed Freeze, people like John Johannes from Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Mike Chapman. Love talking to Xbox exclusive developers, indie to AAA. And then every week I also work with Captain Logan. We talk and break down the Xbox gaming news. Anybody can find XEP, the Xbox Expansion Pass, all your podcast services, YouTube, Patreon, Discord, all that stuff. It's been a great year for me in XEP coverage, man. I can't be more grateful for the people that have turned up to be supportive, and much like you and Chatterdays, dude, it's good vibes all around. You've been on XEP a number of times. It's a pleasure, dude. I love covering games, and I bleed green and love games, so it's fun.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. You do a lot of amazing work when it comes to interviews. So if that is your jam, if you're someone who wants to get the industry insights from people in the know, like Ed Freeze, Luke has a huge collection of interviews. So definitely check out his work if you haven't. Really appreciate what you do and appreciate your takes. I'm excited to get into this with you today because there is a lot of good vibes, a lot of positive energy. There's a lot of excitement, ahead of this show. A lot of people were coming out saying, temper expectations, make sure you don't overhype this. And now that we're the day before, I think a lot of those voices are gone. At this point, it's everyone's aboard the hype train. Everyone's sucked into the energy and the wild possibilities. And, even if your wildest dreams don't come true, I think it's still fun and exciting to think about what could be, the things that could be at this show. And that's what this show is all about today. Some housekeeping before we dive into this. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who watches the show live, supports the show, supports this new channel. We hit 2,000 subscribers late last month, and we're on the road to 5,000. So if you're new, if you're tuning in, be sure to like, subscribe, all of that typical stuff. And I got to give a shout out to all of the members of the channel throwing down their ducats each and every month to support the show. In the supporter tier, we have William Riggs, Huffy Bear CH, Sinful Sadie TTV, Gold Shell WPR, Christopher Davis, Buddy McClure, Rachel, Derek Griffin Jones, V Simcoe, Anthony, and last but not least, my mom. In the loyalist tier, we have John Grasula, Patrick, Nick W, and Assassin. And an extra special shout out to our producers, Matt Valdez, Yodani Quazada, and Hargi Chani. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate everything you do to support the show. I see some amazing faces in the chat, such as Yodani, Mr. Joanna Dark. We got Diz Guy. A lot of folks already. Matt Valdez dropping the burgers in the chat. You love to see it. Before we get into Summer Game Fest, the Xbox Game Showcase, we got to talk about the games we've been loving. That's been a big part of the show in recent months is breaking down the games that they're putting a smile on our face. All right. So Luke, what games have been, sucking you in this past week?
Oh my gosh, dude. We have been it has been a feast of great games. I have been living my life in Diablo lately. I'm goodness gracious, well over 30 hours in Diablo, loving that game. I crossed level 50. I think Diablo 4 is one of the best. I was not a Diablo fan. Like I didn't play
Oh,
Diablo 3. I beat it, I think maybe, but like it was a throwaway game for
oh,
me. I just wasn't a Diablo
what?
guy. I'm all in on Diablo 4, loving that. I love Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6 is one of the best games in the Street Fighter series, if not the best, and I haven't touched it much by way of Diablo. So take that for what you will. But yeah, between those two, I've been dabbling with my fight stick and messing around there, and it's been a good time. I can't complain.
Dude, it's this year. It's been absolutely ridiculous. Every time I see someone complain about the state of the games industry or the slate of games right now, I'm like, bro,
Hmm.
what are you doing? What are you looking at? Because we've had Dead Space, we've had Resident Evil 4, we've had Metroid Prime Remastered, we've had The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, we've had Street Fighter 6, we've had Diablo 4, we've had Hogwarts Legacy, we've had hit after hit after hit after hit, and they don't stop
Hmm.
coming, Luke. Every day.
No,
As
no.
someone who's been working for Windows Central and IGN and trying to do stuff on my own channel, I've been drowning, all right? Like, I don't want to complain about work, but my God, going from Tears of the Kingdom straight into Street Fighter 6, straight into Diablo, straight into the Xbox Game Showcase coverage. Oh boy, there's been some video game stuff to talk about, some video game stuff to cover, and most importantly, a lot of it has been excellent. So, you mentioned Diablo 4. I am a huge Diablo fan. Diablo 2
Yeah.
is probably my most played game of all time.
Wow.
I
Okay.
remember being on dial-up internet back in my day,
Back in his
uh,
day.
playing Diablo 2, hogging up the phone line, having my mom say, "Get off the damn internet so I can call your aunt." And I'm like, "Hold on, I gotta finish this dungeon." Like, I
Hmm.
played so much Diablo 2. That game just, it wasn't my first foray into Diablo. The first time I played Diablo was actually on PlayStation 1. I remember going into my local video store back when they rented video games, and I saw
Okay.
the cover of the big spooky demon. I was like, "Ooh, this looks cool!" And so we convinced our friend's mom to rent us this M-rated game when we were way too
Hmm.
young to play M-rated games,
Ooh.
and we played split-screen co-op of Diablo 1 on PS1. And let me tell you, that is the peak of Diablo. That is how Diablo 1 should be experienced. PlayStation 1 shared screen, baby. Oh man. And ever since then I've been hooked. So when Diablo 2 came out, day 1, I was there day 1. Same with Diablo 3. I remember buying a bunch of collector's editions, mouse, keyboards, accessories for Diablo
Hmm.
3. I bought that on PC. I bought that on Xbox 360. I bought it on Xbox One, and I almost bought it on Switch. So I bought Diablo 3 3 times, almost 4. And so Diablo 4, I've been very excited about.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say, I played the beta and I liked it. There was a lot that I liked instantly about the beta,
Right.
but I was very unsure about the MMO, the transition to the like MMO formula. And it
I know
because
what you mean.
it feels like Diablo just copied World of Warcraft. It said, "What if we made Diablo World of Warcraft?" And as someone
Hmm.
who's not a big fan of MMOs and World of Warcraft, I was like,
Hmm.
that's not what I want. That's not what I want at all from Diablo. But that being said, I'm about 2 days and 5 or 6 hours in. I have a lot of playtime in Diablo 4. It's really grown on me. It has the best endgame. I'm now in the heat, in the heart of the endgame. Wrap the campaign with that
Hmm.
epic finale. Won't spoil it, but man, that finale is so strong, so powerful. Um, and now that I'm in the end game, the core, that dopamine hit of
Hmm.
chasing the loot, chasing the upgrades, chasing the gear that I love about Diablo, it's there. It's there. It's better than it's ever been, and there's more reasons to keep playing. Because back in the last few entries, you would just play through the campaign over and over again on harder difficulties, which I enjoyed, and I did over and over and over again. But now
Hmm.
there's actually exclusive dungeons, there's exclusive modes, PvP sections. There's all these systems and mechanics that unlock once you beat the game, and it feels like when you beat the game that's when the game actually starts. And so now that I'm in the heart of that, oh man, oh, I'm in.
Everyone
I'm all
keep
in.
Everyone keeps telling me that's when the game starts. I've been having such a good time jumping into my buddies' games and just helping. Once I got my mount, I didn't care if I was playing my story or not. But now I've kind of been pushed. They were like, no, finish the story so you can do World Tier 3. Finish the story so you can
Yeah.
see world bosses on your map. Finish the story so you can go in and do that end game grind. So I'm like, all right. And I'm exploring the Paragon system. Like, I'm catching vibes in this game that I never thought I would, and I'm the guy that finds the fun. I find the fun in everything. I swim in sevens. This game has so much for so many different people that I am dopamine hit left and right.
Yes.
I played for 4 hours straight last night, right? Not a big deal, but it was more than I would normally play at one time. Went down, walked the dog, and walking with my wife, and I'm like, I could really go for some Diablo right now. And she's like, you know what you should do after playing Diablo? You should play some Diablo. I'm like, all right. Here I am.
It's bad when this is gonna sound sad and pathetic. I'm having dreams where I'm watching the legendary sparkle appear, the legendary beam. I literally had a dream last night where I was getting loot in Diablo 4. So that's how you know a game has its hooks in your brain, attached to my brain stem at this point. I wanna play Diablo, and it feels good. It feels really good. And I will say just some general positive praise. The story overall, I think, is one of the strongest. The way the story is presented is really strong as well. So the narrative team did an excellent job with Diablo 4. Really appreciate that. One complaint, though, the co-op experience feels very segmented. It feels very much like an MMO. And it's kind of a similar complaint I have with Elder Scrolls Online, is when you're playing in co-op, sometimes it feels like everyone's playing their own single player game just next to each other. So there are moments where you'll be fighting a boss and there'll be a conclusion to the boss and you'll go to talk to the NPC on the other side. And if you're playing in co-op, there are times where your friend can watch the cutscene and you don't get to see it. It'll just say, Anthony completed a cutscene. You're like, what? Okay, well, I would like to know what's going on in the story. So you have to get the cliff notes from your buddy as to what happened in the cutscene. So weird decisions on that front, but aside from that, this is going to be my most played game of 2023 by a lot. I'm, like I said, over 2 days in, and I don't see that slowing down at all. I don't know that it's my game of the year, because it's been a year and there's been so many amazing experiences, but this will confidently be my most played game. I can't imagine anything else consuming my brain in the same way that Diablo has when it comes to just hitting up the squad every free minute. Hey, we doing some dungeons? What's up? We doing? I need some uniques, bro. I need those uniques, bro.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm curious, though, how I'll feel about Game of the Year, because we have had a year of just hit after hit after hit. You and I were talking prior to recording, and the list is long. And I'm very curious to know, once we've got recency bias removed and we encounter Spider-Man, we encounter Starfield, we encounter whatever else is to come.
Alan Wake 2, baby. Ooh.
Oh, gosh. I'm so excited for that. How do they stack up? What kind of experience do you want? Because in its genre, Diablo gets Game of the Year. In its genre, plenty of these other ones make a competition. Like, where's Jedi Survivor stand?
That was one that people shouted out as a true Game of the Year contender.
Yeah. Well, how does that stack up next to Hogwarts? How does that stack up next to Dead Space and RE4 and such? It's just like, we are, no matter who you are or what your genre, there is a slew of amazing titles to play, and that is just exactly how I want it to be.
We're feasting out here, and it's been such a good year. And again, Xbox Game Showcases tomorrow, so we'll have a better idea of what the holiday season's looking like. We got Capcom with a show on Monday, Ubisoft. There's a lot of big players who haven't even played their cards yet for what's on the table for the rest of 2023, early 2024. So
yeah.
Oh man. It's 2023 will go down in history as one of the best years for video games ever. Already.
I don't know how it couldn't.
Even if we stop right here, it already is. We've already had so many amazing games. So yeah,
fully agree.
It's been good. It's been real good. Got to give a quick shout out to all the amazing people joining us live. If you are digging the show, hit that like button. If you are new, subscribe to the channel. We got to welcome a new member to the supporter tier, Disciple of John Carpenter, which I love it. As a big horror fan, as a big horror nerd, that username warms my heart. So welcome. I see that burger in the chat. See you enjoying the show. Appreciate you tuning in live. So we're going to talk a little bit about John Carpenter later today. But
It's like,
first,
your B-roll right now is oddly appropriate.
yes,
Mhm.
yeah. The first thing I want to talk about, we obviously
Okay.
had Summer Game Fest live this week, and
Mhm.
that was the biggest show this week. Summer
Mhm.
Game Fest, we're going to talk about our impressions, but just from an optics perspective, from a view perspective, that was the biggest show this week. But there was another noteworthy show from a high profile indie publisher, the Devolver Direct, the return of Volvi 2023. And Devolver, God bless Devolver, they are such a ridiculously weird, unapologetically weird publisher, and their showcases every year are just a beautiful experience. And this year's show was no different. So before I talk about the show proper, Luke, did you watch the Devolver Direct this year?
I did not. I saw it in the notes, Miles. I'm so sorry. I couldn't stop playing Diablo in enough time to watch it. So I will humbly apologize for that one. But I did watch like a little recap of it and such. That was the best I could do for you. I am always impressed by Devolver's ability to poke the bear, as it were. You
Yes,
know?
yes, Devolver poked the bear in a big way.
Okay.
Their showcases are funny because this show, I think, was 22 minutes. They only showed
Mhm.
4 games. So most
Yeah.
of this show was this overarching story, this overarching narrative about Volvi, the Devolver digital mascot from the late 80s, early 90s, everyone's favorite video game mascot. And they did this fake documentary about Volvi and how Volvi was beloved by children, and there was Volvi merchandise, and there was all of this gear. And then as the kids grew up into their teens, they tried to rebrand Volvi and make him edgy. So they had this parody Volvi video game called Cigarette Heist, which was clearly just making fun of Grand Theft Auto. And they tried to transition Volvi into an edgy teen mascot. And then he just slowly faded into obscurity. But in the modern times, people are nostalgic and they want those comebacks. So they brought back Volvi for a brand new audience. And Volve E is now an AI video game machine. So
Mhm.
Volvi is a big robot that walks out on stage and you feed Volvi prompts. And Volvi can turn those prompts into video games. So they were taking some big jabs at this push into AI. They're like, no longer do you need to worry about boring developers being inspired. Now you can just feed your ideas to Volvi, and Volvi will make the video games that you want. So the entire showcase was presented as these Devolver digital games were prompts that random people from the audience came on stage and suggested. It was so good, so beautiful. In typical Devolver fashion, Volvi is evil, turns into a horrifying monster,
Mhm.
blood, gore, viscera, the whole 9 yards. So if you are familiar with standard Devolver digital showcases, it was very much that. But in terms of games, there were a couple noteworthy standouts. First up, Human Fall Flat 2. Oh
Mhm.
my, if you haven't played Human Fall Flat, I think it is still on Xbox Game Pass. It is such an amazing physics puzzle platformer. It's the go-to party game when we have a squad of more than 4 and we're not sure what to play. Human Fall Flat is always the game we suggest because it's dumb fun. You and your friends are flailing around trying to solve puzzles together, and it's just beautiful. So getting the confirmation of a sequel, man, that felt really good. There's also a really funny looking game called Baby Legs coming out where it's from some of the people who did Get Over It, that game where you're the dude in like the
Mhm.
bucket with the sledgehammer and you gotta physics your way through platforms and whatever nonsense. So it's that same concept on a bigger scale, 3D, and I don't know how it controls, but you control each leg individually. So
That's
your object of the game is just to walk across these environments, but it's really dumb in terms of the physics. Looks really funny. Has a lot of comedians tied to the project as well. So those were the two standouts. Like I said, only 4 games total were featured
yeah.
at the Devolver Digital Showcase in 22 minutes. So it's mostly about that, the narrative
Volvi.
about
I thought it
Volvi.
was yeah, I thought it was strange. Not many of these spoke to me. Wizard with a Gun looked cool. I liked the trailer for Wizard with a Gun. Um, but then get the baby legs. That was so pure Devolver that I was just like, all right, I see what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your angle here. Human Fall Flat, I feel like is more Human Fall Flat, which is cool. People are going to be there for it. It's going to be a good party game, good streaming game for a lot of people, I bet. I am curious about Talos Principle too.
Oh yes,
Maybe
that's right.
just me.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of
Like,
I never played the original, so I guess I'm not part of that group. I've seen a lot of people very excited about Talos Principle.
same. Yeah, I didn't play the original either, but the trailer looks solid, and I'm like, all right, I feel like this is a game I could pick up in a weekend and enjoy.
Yeah, so maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'll finally get around to checking out the original because it's a successor to Myst in some ways, but with more
Hmm.
puzzle platforming. Right?
Yeah,
Is that
I can see that.
the pitch?
I think that's the pitch. I mean, it's a puzzle platformer in a lot of ways. So
In a lot
yeah,
of ways. Okay, okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I love a good puzzle platformer. I've only played Myst once or twice, and I was way too young to get it. I
Hmm.
remember playing Myst on Windows 95 to
Hmm.
date myself a little bit. And back when my uncle was the only person I knew with a gaming PC, and I remember playing not Diablo, but Doom and
Yes.
Myst, and I was like, oh, whoa, this is PC gaming. This
Hmm.
is nuts, dude.
Yep.
And how far we've come. How far we've come in a relatively short period of time. Got to give a quick shout out to Matt Valdez dropping an amazingly generous super chat here.
Love
Saying,
Matt.
Matt, a legend, producer of the show, so an absolute goat here on Xbox Chaturdays, says, sending some extra crispy double down love to you and Luke.
Nope. I don't like
Xbox
Matt anymore.
Chaturdays and Xbox Expansion Pass equals two of my favorite Xbox dudes in the same show. Appreciate you. I do not appreciate the KFC double down, but
That's right.
I do appreciate the love. All right.
So let me just a quick segue here, Miles. Matt Valdez, stand-up guy, appreciative. He's a supporter of my Patreon as well, but he corralled my patrons into this whole get Luke to eat double downs kind of thing, and I can't do it because it's garbage food.
You've never
And
even
I don't
tried
want
it?
to. No, I don't want to try it.
Oh, see, I'm
And
not.
they're just pushing it. They're poking the bear. They're like, when you get to this spot, this spot, this spot, and it's like the time is coming where I'm gonna have to eat one, and I am not looking forward to it.
See, I'm not above eating garbage. All right, I will get. I've put this body through a gauntlet. This body's finely tuned to endure anything I
Mm,
can throw at it. All right, so I want to give a shout out to my guts for just enduring some of the horrendous things I put inside it. One of those being the KFC Double Down. Now, I've publicly lambasted KFC and the Double Down on this show. I will
mhm,
continue to do so because the KFC should not be made. It is a spawn of hell, and that's why the collaboration with Diablo makes so much sense.
mhm,
Because
mhm.
only a vile monster would
Right,
create such a sandwich. All right.
right.
That
I
being said,
agree.
I've eaten two. So
Oh
that,
no.
that being said, I've eaten it twice. I did it when it first came out, when there was the gimmick of, oh man, a fried chicken for the buns? That's wild. And then when they
Mhm,
brought it back after a while, I was like, maybe I was too harsh on it. Maybe I didn't respect the nuance of the crispy chicken, the
mhm.
cheese, the tangy sauce and bacon. Maybe I wasn't really wrapping my head around all of the intricacies, the culinary masterwork that went
Right.
into the KFC Double Down.
Mhm.
So I tried it again. I said, you know what? I'm gonna give KFC the benefit of the doubt. I've been harsh on KFC, but I'll try it again. Nah,
See,
nope,
that's the thing. Your
nope.
supporters are so kind that burgers, enjoy this, enjoy that. Mine want to kill me, but by making me eat that garbage, and it concerns me. That's all I'm saying is I'm worried for myself here.
Yeah. So I'm someone who loves Taco Bell, so I'm not gonna come out here and shame anyone for their fast food choices. All right. Like I said, I'm not above eating garbage. I'm not
Hmm.
above eat.
Hmm.
I think we should all eat a little bit of garbage every now and then. All right. So if
Yeah.
you love KFC, not a dig against you. All right. Keep doing it. Keep doubling down on the double down. That's totally fine.
No, I'll personally attack all of
But
you.
okay. Okay. Wow. I think what was it? We had a members only Q&A last week for the channel members, and
Hmm.
most of the conversation was about ranking the fast food burger chains
Okay.
and just food in general. So it started off
Okay.
gaming talk, and then the back half was just all food, and it was right around lunchtime, so it was nice. It was
Yeah.
good.
There you go.
See, we got
Nice.
9 lives in the chat slamming Taco Bell. I won't stand for it. Okay. All right, Luke, like we said,
Right.
Summer Game Fest was the big show this week.
Hmm.
Everyone was looking at Jeff because Jeff has put a lot of energy and time into building up Summer Game Fest. Started as this fledgling competitor to E3, and the last few years he's kind of cultivated it into something that is more or less a must-watch if you're someone who follows the video games industry. There have been
Yep.
huge reveals. We've got an Elden Ring gameplay. There have been standout moments at Summer Game Fest. So he set the precedent in some ways that kind of anything's possible. We more or
Mhm.
less know what to expect. There's going to be celebrities. There's going to be, some sponsored content. There's going to be
Mhm.
some weird pacing.
Yep.
And all of that was at Summer Game Fest 2023. But a lot of us, after the PlayStation showcase, which felt like, for some fans, PlayStation was maybe, quote, holding back. I've seen that
Mhm.
mentality. That maybe there was the possibility of some mega, mega massive reveals at this show. And in a very unconventional move, Jeff even started the show. One of the first things that he said is, you need to stick around for the end. Finale of
Mhm.
this show is going to blow your mind. I've
Mhm.
never heard anyone say that at a game conference. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you right now that you have to stay to the end. Maybe because
Mhm.
he knew what the rest of the show was going to be and wanted to make sure people stayed until the end, but it was just strange. It was
Yeah.
interesting and strange and presented a certain level of confidence in the big climax of this show. So before
Mhm.
we highlight specific announcements, things that we liked and didn't like,
Mhm.
what did you think of the show overall this year?
Man, I did not. I wasn't overly thrilled by it. So I enjoyed the PlayStation showcase, and maybe it's because I'm a primarily Xbox gamer. But I was higher on that one because I saw 8 games in the PlayStation showcase I wanted to play. Summer Game Fest. The whole time I was thinking Jeff Keighley is spread too thin. He does 3 shows a year with Opening Night Live, Summer Game Fest, and the Game Awards, and it feels like there are too many showcases for not enough big AAA high profile trailers, and everybody does kind of their own thing, right? So I wasn't overly thrilled by Summer Game Fest, but that's not to say it wasn't quality. I kind of gave it a C, whereas I gave PlayStation a B. But even that was mixed, right? Like I didn't see people in consensus with my take either. I saw a lot of games I'm gonna play, but we on XEP we called it reheated vegetables. It was like I already knew I was gonna eat that. I already knew those were leftovers. I already knew I was gonna play Alan Wake. I already knew I was gonna check out Mortal Kombat and such. I only had one game that was showcased new in Summer Game Fest that I was like, yes, all in. This is the win. This is my game of show. And the rest was like I already kind of knew about this one. So that was my problem with Summer Game Fest. That said, was it a good show? Yeah, it was solid. Pacing issues, sure. It's tough when you gotta balance relationships between, high profile AAA titles, small indies. You want to give people incentive to return, to build a relationship there. And then they're balancing between their own showcases, between the big first party. It's tough to pull this off. And I honestly think between Summer Game Fest, Game Awards, and Opening Night Live, maybe Keeley's influence is spread a touch too thin. Uh, but I don't think anybody should doubt Keeley. He gets a lot of flack, especially from the Xbox community, and I
Yeah.
understand where he's coming from. But without a doubt, he's done a lot of good for the gaming industry. He gets a pass. I felt like this was a rare miss for him.
Yeah, Jeff does get a lot of heat. And like you said, he puts on 3 big shows a year, which is,
Mhm.
there's a reason Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo don't do that, because it is a tremendous undertaking and you need a
Mhm.
dedicated crew. And thankfully, Jeff has that with the Game Awards. He has
Yeah.
Game Awards, he has Gamescom, and he has Summer Game Fest that are all tied, and he has a dedicated team
Mhm.
that is their entire job every single year, is to coordinate these showcases and put time and energy into these showcases. So again, I've talked to people behind the scenes about what goes into that. How do you show games? When do you show games? And the
Mhm.
problem a lot of these teams run into is that sometimes you get to the day where you get to the cutoff when things can be submitted, and games just aren't there. Games aren't ready.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
have no control over that, and you still have to try to make a worthwhile show, an interesting show. And I think Jeff always tries at the very least to do that. For some people,
Mhm.
he doesn't always deliver, but I think he always tries. So I like to get,
Yes.
I'd like to shout out Jeff in that regard, as he's hustling. He's out there putting
Fully
in the
agree.
work at the very least. That being said, this show overall, like you said, was kind of strange because a lot of the biggest moments
Mhm.
were from previous announcements or previous
Yeah.
showcases. And so there
Yeah.
weren't a lot of big surprises at this show. And I think that's what a lot of people consider a win. Again, I think a lot of people downplayed the PlayStation show because we knew Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake was coming. If that landed as an actual surprise, I feel like the conversations regarding the PlayStation show would be more positive, because there would be that, damn, that was the moment. That was the big surprise. And I think when we look at podcasts, we look at how people discuss these shows on social media, that's the
Mhm.
component. That's the
So
win, is that surprise, that delight.
I agree, but I have a question for you. If that's the delight, are we in a very? I feel like we as content creators, as people, as anybody that's watching right now, 158 people. Shout out to all of you.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm, mm.
you know, if we're the people that are interested, but how many people in mass were surprised and shocked to find out about Metal Gear Solid 3? Way more than people were paying attention. Way
Right,
more than
yeah.
had it spoiled. So if you don't know about the Xbox leaks, and you're watching the show tomorrow or you catch it later on, you're going to be thrilled, right? The people that are in the know are such a small quantity of gamers, casual and hardcore alike, that I don't know that it might damage the enjoyment for those that are really hyper interested. But I know so many people that like they were caught off guard by Metal Gear Solid 3. They don't know about what Xbox or what's leaked for the Xbox show. They're going to be thrilled.
Yeah.
We're just an educated minority or an interested minority is a better way to put that, uh, for these showcases. And I think there's a lot of good to still be had there.
Yeah, a lot of us who are tuning into podcasts on social media, having these conversations, we're very in tune with what's going on. We're watching the
Mhm.
leaks, we're watching the developments. We have our favorite journalists, we have our favorite creators in the space covering this information,
Right.
and we want to have those conversations. We want to be engaged. So with that comes the risk of having surprises spoiled. And I think that's where
Mhm.
a lot of us find ourselves. But like you said, there are probably a ton of people who were surprised, who were excited because they just see a show. Maybe they only watch Summer Game Fest and like, oh, Alan Wake 2, I didn't know that
Mhm.
was coming. Oh, Mortal Kombat
Mhm.
1, that looks cool. And
Mhm.
those people probably aren't even talking about the show on Twitter or on social media. They're probably just
Right.
watching the show and saying, cool, I'm excited about these games. And that is a
Exactly.
statistic. That is a huge percentage that when we talk about what we want, how these companies message, when we talk about those things, we say, I want you to message to me because this is how I engage with this content. But a lot of these people have to factor in just the average person. How do I get the average person to watch? And then how do I give an experience that the average person is interested in while also catering to the people who are in the know every single
Mhm.
day? And so that's a tough balance. That is
Yep.
a really tough balance. So I thought the show was okay, good, not great. I would say this year there were some
Mhm.
moments that stood out to me and got me excited, but I
Mhm.
wasn't floored by the show overall. But
Agree.
let's start with your favorite moment for the people watching and you, Luke. What were your favorite moments from Summer Game Fest Live this year?
Allow me to show you my handwritten notes that I
Oh,
took. Yeah, that's
that
right. I took.
penmanship. What are you, some kind
Yeah.
of were you some kind of teacher or something?
Yeah, on the side. On the side.
Okay, it's a little side hustle.
Yeah, I teach middle school as a side hustle. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Respect the hustle
thank
culture.
you. um, so like you, I gave the show a C. My standout game of show. Is that what you want to hear first? My like most
Just
favorite moment?
just your favorite moments in general. Yeah, if you want to
Okay.
start with your biggest one, go for it. But just your favorite moments in general.
Sh- Sure. So my favorite moment easily was when we saw Sonic Superstars. I was so thrilled by that, having kind of rediscovered Sonic the Hedgehog thanks to Frontiers and the really good collections that are out there now. Xbox gamers, we eat pretty when it comes to being able to play a lot of older games, Sonic Origins, Sonic Mania. Um, I was really excited by that to see how they were treating it. It felt very new Super Mario Brothers. And I remember that joy of having a DS back in the day, and New Super Mario Brothers was fresh out, and getting to play that. That's what this looks like for Sonic. But we've already had several Sonic reimaginings or reinventions, and and Origins, sorry, Mania Origins, and then Frontiers were both great. And so I'm really excited for this one as well. So that one was fresh because it was new. I had no idea it was coming. Didn't know what it was going to be. Loved the trailer. We went back and forth in art styles. That one was fun, for sure. Other standout moments. Let me take a look here. It was cool seeing more Spider-Man, but I don't think it stole the cake. Alan Wake 2 gameplay, miles. I love Alan Wake. I love Control. I love them for different reasons. And then finding out that this is, I mean, we kind of knew, but like a survival horror game. Dude, after Dead Space remake and RE4 remake, I love, I mean, who doesn't love survival horror, but like seeing what this generation can do with it. Alan Wake 2 just looked that much better. Warhammer stood out to me as a good game. Warhammer Space Marine 2. Shout out to Bolt Gun, by the way. Play Bolt Gun. That game's really fun. And then, but it was also the rest of it was just stuff that I knew I was gonna play. I know I'm enjoying Street Fighter. I know I'm gonna check out Immortals of Avium. And again, I knew about Alan Wake. I know about Spider-Man. I'm interested, morbidly perhaps, in Toxic Commando. Interested in that. Like, I want to know. I don't think this is a new game. I feel like I've played this game 1,000 times. What are you doing, John Carpenter? Like, what's your involvement here? Probably nothing. I got questions. So it's a morbid curiosity.
John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. One thing I love about Jeff's shows, and maybe this is definitely just for me, is that he always finds a way to surprise me with weird horror games that I didn't even consider being a possibility. Evil Dead the game being my number one example, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and now John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, which is Saber Interactive, Focus Entertainment collaborating with the GOAT, John Carpenter. If you are in the horror space, John Carpenter is one of the most prolific, iconic horror directors of all time. The Thing, easily one of the greatest horror films ever made. John Carpenter has a legacy. And then I see this very campy 80s inspired trailer with Bon Jovi, a group of badass soldiers in an armored vehicle, poorly singing Bon Jovi, and then just slaying, absolutely murdering zombies in a first-person shooter that clearly pulls some inspiration from Left 4 Dead in a lot of ways, but it looks like it maybe integrates the World War Z tech because it is Saber Interactive. So
yes, that's what I noticed.
There's a lot of possibility here, and I'm excited. I want to know what the hell John Carpenter's involvement was in this, because did he just slap his name on it to be cool? I can't imagine he would do that. He's a busy guy. He has a lot going on. So I'm hoping that this kind of goes back to John Carpenter's really campy horror roots, and there are some really interesting things there. That being said, Focus Entertainment.
He's a gamer.
Yeah, he is. He talks about loving Dead Space. He plays a lot of video games. I have to imagine that he was excited about this idea, and it wasn't just, oh, let's slap John Carpenter's name on it. And I'm hoping his unique brand of gore is a big component of this game.
Yeah.
It doesn't look great based on what we've seen. I wouldn't tell you that that's like a must play. But that being said, that's a Miles-ass video game. A co-op horror game by John Carpenter where you're squatting up to kill zombies. Whew, I'm there. All right, that's it. That's all you had to say. Will it be a 9 out of 10? I'd say no. Will it be a 6 out of 10 I played the hell out of? Oh, probably.
There you go.
Probably, so.
Yes, you and I find the fun in games, and that's one thing I love about it, is like, not to be outdone is that World War Z tech, right? And there's so much fun to be had there. I'm going to play this game, and I'm going to be curious about it. I'm going to have questions about it, but I'm going to play this game. I knew it the moment I saw it. And that's how I am with like Immortals of Avium. Same thing, Miles. That game could be the top B tier game of the year, right? I doubt it's AAA. Like, I doubt it's truly AAA. That could be a B tier game, but that's a Luke-ass game right there. I'm in. I'm in on that one. Why am I in on it? I don't know. It looks like I have a lot of fun with it. I don't need it to be perfect.
Dragon Ball Breakers is a recent example of a game that's not good, and mechanically it kind of feels bad in a lot of ways, but the overall idea was so compelling and so interesting that I was playing it. I played 40 hours of Dragon Ball The Breakers, and it was this weird Frankenstein fusion of Dead by Daylight and Dragon Ball Z. You have so many questions as to why it exists, how it was pitched, but then you get your hands on it, and it feels unlike anything else. And more, those are the games that are the most intriguing to me, because it's teams taking some sort of creative risk and trying to do something unique in a space where there are proven genres, there are proven mechanics that work. Lies of P, I'm stoked for it. I'm stoked as hell for it, but that's Dark Souls. You've seen so many games and teams blatantly copy Dark Souls because that formula is so great. And so while I'm incredibly excited for Lies of P because it looks incredible, I'm not expecting it to be an experience that's wholly unique. And sometimes I'm more willing to overlook a game's flaws if it is doing something universally distinct in the space. So those are the experiences I'm always looking for. That John Carpenter's Toxic Commando probably won't be that. Probably not going to do anything wholly unique, but I'm hoping it's good.
so many games in the past few years that I've just had fun with, 6s and 7s, not great on Metacritic, OpenCritic, but I've had hours and hours of fun. And like you mentioned, Lies of P, as an Xbox community, like how excited can we be? This is a day one Game Pass game. If you're on the
Yeah.
fence, check it out. Play this one. It's just like, it looks like it's the fix, right? Because I don't think Elden Ring DLC is happening for a bit. So you had Wolong already in Game Pass. You've got Lies of P coming in there as well. Like you're the perfect Game Pass game, right? Like that, why not? Go for it. Check it out.
Do it.
See if it's for you. And if it is, enjoy it.
Yes, because Wolong was another big Souls-like, quote unquote, that hit Game Pass, and that did well.
Mm-hmm.
That did well for
Yep.
the game, did well for the team, did well for the community, because it let people try it. It let people play a game they probably wouldn't have otherwise. Because there are a contingent of people who, as soon as they hear Souls-like, they go, "Oh, no thanks. I don't want to stress. I don't want that difficulty." But with Lies of P, Wolong, you can at least dip your toes in and say, you know, have I been too harsh? Without dropping the full 60. So, my standouts of the show, first and foremost, Nick Cage, baby. Yeah, sometimes the celebrity cameos are very cringe. They're very uncomfortable. You can tell that they don't really want to be there or understand fully why they are there. But Nick
But he was
Cage,
having fun.
he came out with the swagger. He came out with a big smile. He came out to have fun. And that's why I was so stoked to see Nick Cage, because the idea of Nick Cage being in Dead by Daylight is just so absurd. And when they first teased that was going to be a thing, we all had so many questions. Is Nick Cage going to be a killer? Is Nick Cage going to be a survivor? And most importantly, is Nick Cage just going to be Nick Cage?
Yeah.
And sure enough, it's Nicolas Cage is a survivor in Dead by Daylight, not playing someone else. It is Nicolas Cage in Dead by Daylight, and it's magical. It's just beautiful. And so having that moment, and again, for some folks, it probably went on too long, but for Jeff Keighley to come out and say, "Bro, why'd you do this?"
Yeah.
Just straight up ask, like, do you even play this game? Why would you be in Dead by Daylight? Was awesome. And to have him say, someone in my family loves it. So that's kind of how I got turned on to it. And to have him be able to speak to the game and the experience was really cool. And so I gotta say, Nick Cage was good to see on stage. That was a really cool celebrity cameo.
It felt like Jeff wanted to have a Keanu moment.
Yes.
It kind of felt like that. But much like Keanu, when the celebrity comes out, is interested and is having fun, any cringe that comes with it is a good time, right?
Yes.
That's fun. Like when Keanu came out, you're breathtaking. And he's like, "All right, guys, I got to talk to you." Like he was overwhelmed by the moment. And Nick Cage kind of had similar vibes. He was just like, so here's how you play video games, guys. But he was having fun. And when they take us on that journey with them, I'm there for it. So I enjoyed Nicolas Cage showing up as well. But it didn't surprise me. It felt like he was there. Did it already feel like it was there for you? Or were you surprised?
I was a little surprised. I knew there would be celebrity cameos because there always are. We've had Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez. That stands out as one of the most uncomfortable ones, where they came out on stage clearly hammered, like very, very obviously intoxicated. And for me, that was hilarious. But it was just, you could tell the production crew was like, "Oh, no. No, what are they going to do? What are they going to say?" But Nick Cage didn't have that. He came out composed, ready to rock and roll, did his thing, and he was done. So that was great. Another big standout for me was Remnant 2's release date, and it's coming so much sooner. Coming July 25th. Remnant from the Ashes. If you haven't played it, I'll give you the elevator pitch. It's Gears of War meets Dark Souls. It's a third-person, loot-based co-op shooter with epic, monstrous bosses that are horrifying. It's got some procedurally generated elements to the stages and the flow of progression. But yeah, the original was such a great co-op game. I think it launched in 2017, 2018. We played through it multiple times. We were hoping there would be a next-gen update for Remnant. But I interviewed the team a little while back, and they suggested, they teased a little bit that something else was coming. I didn't know Remnant 2 would be coming so soon, but it is coming in July, and I am so stoked for that. That is such a good co-op game. Luke, did you play Remnant from the Ashes at all?
I didn't. It was one of those that I saw. It was there. I dig the Gears of War vibe that it has, but it never quite spoke to me because when it was initially pitched to me, it was told it's a Souls-like. And at the time, like Souls-like with guns, I think is how somebody told me that it was. And because of that description, I didn't dive in. It wasn't until later, thanks to Jedi Fallen Order, Darksiders 3, and uh, one other one, that I was like, you know what, I can play these games. And then, 185 hours into Elden Ring, it's like, you know what, maybe I can play Remnant. Is it a Souls-esque game with guns, or was that a
Yes.
bad description? It is. Okay.
That is, yeah. It's very much a Souls game with guns. And
Hmm.
again, that loop is very engaging. It's got you collect the disposable currency, you drop it when you die, you have to go fight your way back to collect it. That traditional Souls loop is a big component of Remnant from the Ashes.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Well, that now that I'm accustomed to the style of game, I could see myself playing it. I thought the trailer was great. I was interested. Like it does look cool, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
because you could tell the original was very much an indie game. You could tell it was smaller scope, smaller scale. And
Hmm.
based on what we've seen from the trailer, this seems to be a big improvement overall to the experience. So I'm excited. I'm ready. That looks fantastic. Much like you, I thought Sonic Superstars. Yes,
Yeah,
Sonic Superstars looks great, dude.
you were
Uh,
excited too. I'm so
I'm not.
excited for that.
I don't love Sonic. Historically, I'm not the biggest Sonic the Hedgehog fan.
Hmm.
I had the Nintendo growing up. My friend
Hmm.
had the Sega. We would go to each other's houses, play each other's games, and I always played Sonic, liked Sonic, but I never loved Sonic. So over the
Hmm.
years, there's been standout moments like Sonic
Hmm.
Generations, where I'm like, yes, Sonic rules. And then
Yep.
there are other games where I play it and I'm like, Sonic kind of sucks. So it's been this really conflicted experience when it comes to Sonic. But seeing a 4-player 2D Sonic game that looks
Hmm.
that good, the art style
Hmm.
looks immaculate. It looks
Hmm.
like a throwback to Sonic Generations where they're going back to their roots in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
That was a nice surprise. That one I was really, really impressed by what we saw, and that was a big standout moment for me. And then obviously Alan Wake 2 continues to look incredible. I've been waiting a decade for that sequel. It's finally here. It's coming in October. It looks amazing. It basically is going to be True Detective, the horror game.
Hmm.
Um, I was reading and listening to some people's impressions of Alan Wake 2 on Twitter earlier today, and everyone who's played it has left very high on the experience. Love that it's going to a darker, more horror focused experience. As Sam Lake came out and said on stage, this is Remedy's first survival horror game. So they are
Hmm.
really embracing what that means for them and this story and this character. Because it's always been a dark universe, but I would consider the first game more of a thriller than a horror game.
Agree. Yeah, I think that's right with you. But again, I go back to having played so many great this generation survivor horror games and knowing what Remedy is capable of, having seen Control in its best form on current gen, and loving Alan Wake in general. I'm like, yes, this is one, and I hope people turn up for it because there's a lot. There's a lot to this game, and there's a vibe to it. Like it's not an Xbox game, but it feels like an Xbox game, right? And that's there are certain titles that are multi-platform, but they feel like they belong with a certain platform. And thanks to that Xbox 360 era, I'm so in. I just love Alan Wake. Such a cool character.
As someone who loved 360, who was playing 360 at a formative time in my life, this
Hmm.
season for me has been so amazing because we got Dragon's Dogma 2, one of my favorite
Yeah.
Xbox 360 games, and Alan Wake 2, a sequel to
Hmm.
one of my favorite Xbox 360 games. And so for me, as an Xbox 360 kid back in the day, oh man, I've been so stoked.
Hmm.
Those are two of my most anticipated games by a lot because the originals were fantastic and what we've seen of both sequels looks amazing. So,
Yeah.
oh, dude. All right,
Right with you.
before we talk about actually one quick last thing that was cool. The finale was great. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looked amazing. Looks
Hmm.
looks really really good. The sprawling landscapes of the open world are such an improvement over the original. So that was a cool
Hmm.
climax. So do want to shout that out real quick. But before we talk about our favorite moments, I do want to get into some super chats from the amazing people watching live. First up, we got Nick W says B tier show just because of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that boosted the show for a lot of people. If that wasn't there, if the finale was weak, people would be, I think, a lot harsher on the show. But Final Fantasy fans right now, they're eating good. Final Fantasy 16 is right around the corner. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth looks amazing.
Hmm.
And then Xbox fans are watching from the sidelines, just like,
Yeah, strange choice, not strange choice. Let me rephrase that because I am so happy for the people that are thrilled for it. Final Fantasy's never been for me, but I know it's just so many people just live and breathe it. But it's a strange thing as a Xbox gamer. Can you enjoy it? Not in its entirety. Some games show up, some don't on Xbox. Um, Strange choice, I thought, to end on a PlayStation non-first party exclusive. Like if it was the next Zelda or the next big Nintendo game, the next Mario, it would have made sense to me. But for it to have the ability to be multi-plat, but not, felt like an odd choice. Um, so it didn't land for me, but I don't think it was ever meant to land for me.
I,
So, you know,
yeah, I think it's one of those games that clearly has a big audience, and it was a
yeah.
big moment. And what's more confusing to me is that Jeff got two massive PlayStation announcements the week after a PlayStation show. So we saw
Hmm.
Spider-Man 2 at the PlayStation show,
Hmm.
didn't get the release date, and everyone was saying, "What's the release date?" And then a week later, Jeff gets to announce the release date for Spider-Man 2, and
Hmm.
then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a major PlayStation exclusive, wasn't at the PlayStation show, but Jeff got that as his finale. So if those two things were at the PlayStation show, I think again, much like Metal Gear, if that was a surprise, that
Hmm.
whole showcase would have been elevated, and I don't think anyone would have been complaining on the same level because they would have had a couple of high profile moments for PlayStation, not first party, but exclusive
Sure.
content.
To capitalize on something here, Sony did a very good job with that Spider-Man stuff because they showcased it, and then they had one of their team leads show up with Keeley, build a relationship there on a bigger stage where arguably more people watch Game Awards and Summer Game Fest than like an exclusive show, maybe. Um, but they
For the Game
doubled their
Awards,
news cycle.
definitely. Yes.
Yeah, the Game Award, yeah. But they doubled their news cycle. People talked about Spider-Man, and now they're talking about Spider-Man again. And that is wise when that is your like really big exclusive of the year, right? So credit to them. It was interesting that we see this stuff happen for PlayStation, and then Xbox. All they gave was a really ugly uh, exclusive special edition Xbox for Porsche. That felt like the stuff that got cut from the showcase extended. That was such a weird moment. And I was not impressed by that. And I almost wonder why Xbox doesn't can try to build that relationship more. But I really think it comes into they're not wanting to let people down at their showcase. They need the win. They need the win. And so I think they're holding everything for themselves.
I think that's the play this year, absolutely.
Hmm.
That Xbox, as we know, and I'm tired of rehashing it, but it's been a weird year for Xbox. The momentum and energy from 2021 in particular tanked in 2022, and then
Hmm.
they've kind of been struggling to maintain that ever since because the conversation's been ABK, ABK,
Hmm.
ABK. Not video games, not the future of Xbox. It's just been
Right.
ABK and what that means and all of the legal noise. So again, for the average person who's not in tune, it probably hasn't been an issue. They've probably been playing Game Pass and enjoying the platform. But for folks like us who are in tune, it's been annoying, to be honest. It's been annoying talking about ABK every single week. I'm so over it. I want it to be done so badly because it's distracting. Like none of us here started Xbox podcast or started listening to Xbox podcasts for legal dissections of
Mm-mm.
mergers and acquisitions. I'm sorry, that is one of the I would never be a lawyer in my life because that stuff bores me to tears, bores me to death. That's not how my brain works. So covering it over and over again has been so distracting from what was exciting about Xbox was the investments into Xbox Game Studios in the future.
Mhm.
That being said, I am a little disappointed that Xbox continues as of late to not really be a part of these big celebrations where everyone theoretically could come together because we've heard people
Mhm.
like Phil Spencer talk about the strength of that and the power in doing that, and I fully agree. I think Summer Game Fest, the Game Awards are an opportunity where everyone can come together, and regardless of what your platform preference is, you can just acknowledge and celebrate a game that looks really good. And when
Mhm.
Xbox isn't there in any capacity outside of, we got the release date for Party Animals, which is cool for Xbox Game Pass, but Xbox wasn't really there and PlayStation was there. And again, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things if Xbox has a really good show. And like I said, I think this year in particular, because of everything that's been going on, they want to have the best show that they've ever had, or the best show they've had in a very long time. And based on their messaging, that seems like a possibility. But I'm still a little disappointed that the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest, Xbox wasn't there in a notable way. Because again, they talk about the industry coming together, celebrating the industry together, but they haven't been delivering on that. So again, minor gripe, but I think there was potential outside of the 75 different Porsche Xboxes and a Game Pass announcement for them to be there.
It is strange to me, and I think that this might be a segue into the Xbox showcase, but they started this generation with an incredible trailer at the Game Awards. They built a relationship with Keighley. 2021, they put out, what is it, Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite, which had great launches in and of themselves. Launches, mind you. And 2022, they didn't do the first party thing. They didn't do it well. But they did have a lot of really good Game Pass stuff that I think Game Pass subscribers, they ate well.
Yep. No
and that's
complaints
not
from
to
me
be,
on the Game Pass front.
Not to be forgotten. And when you look at what they've done, I know I preach this to my audience a lot. Xbox has had one bad game in this generation, and that's Redfall. And even then, a lot of people, including myself, found ways to enjoy it. But when you look at Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Age of Empires, Microsoft Flight Simulator, they have put out a lot of really good games. The problem with them is that they are niche interest levels. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put Pentiment next to God of War. You can't put Hi-Fi Rush next to Ghost of Tsushima. And people try to do that in the console war space. And that's the fickle position of being in third. And so my hope is that they really, after this showcase, which they've had the opportunity time and again to temper expectations and they've chosen not to, we see them, really hit high here and then build a relationship again with the Game Awards, because that's a bigger audience and they need to sell Xboxes. They need to sell those subscriptions, which have plateaued. As an Xbox gamer, man, I've eaten so well in this generation and yet had to deal with the consistent lambasting of Xbox next to PlayStation, next to this or that, the other. And it's tiring. ABK, a good point. And so my hope for this showcase is the reason they are not tempering expectations is justified and fulfilled. And we get to, as Xbox gamers, see people once again celebrating our platform, celebrating our medium. That's to make a comparison, Miles, I love DC Comics. Like, I love DC Comics. I really enjoy that. Really hard to be a DC fan in the movie space. For every the Batman or Zack Snyder's Justice League, you get the Whedon Justice League or Wonder Woman 1984 or whatever. So the idea of James Gunn coming in, where people were excited for it, people were like, hey, I'm excited again. That's fun for me because I can enjoy it with them. I want people excited about Xbox again en masse, the way they were at the beginning of the generation. So bring on Hellblade, bring on Avowed, bring on all these things, because I want to celebrate my platform with others outside of it again.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think, for Xbox fans, that's been something they've looked at this last year, where PlayStation and Nintendo continue to have those moments where everyone's just talking about the big game on that platform. There's no weird drama associated with it. Everyone is just loving a video game. Tears of the Kingdom, a huge moment. You didn't have the weird petty back and forth between like, oh, well, this game versus this game. It was, no, everyone was just either playing the game and loving it or just playing something else. There was no, it was just a moment where everyone was coming together and celebrating a game. And I think Xbox fans, more than anything, just want that. A game that just comes out, is great. There's no question about it. Everyone's playing it, and that's it. Forza Horizon 5 Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite were the last times at launch that Xbox had those kind of moments, outside of Hi-Fi Rush, which was a nice surprise to start this year, where that was when that started at the beginning of this year. I was like, oh, damn, okay, Xbox is back. The momentum is here. They came out of the gate strong. They have a game that people are saying, yo, this is an early game of the year contender. This is amazing. I didn't see anyone slandering Hi-Fi Rush or trying to downplay Hi-Fi Rush. I saw people who don't normally play on Xbox saying, yo, play Hi-Fi Rush right now. And those are the moments Xbox needs more than anything.
Fully agree.
We are going to touch on the showcase. I do want to get to a couple super chats, and I do want to talk about our least favorite moments at Summer Game Fest before we move on there. But first off, we got Matt Without Fear dropping a super chat saying, don't believe his lies. Luke loves double downs. Luke came on the show live and told me he has never had a double down. Matt, are you telling me he's lying to my face?
This is what I talk about patrons attacking me, Miles. They're coming after me, man.
They're coming after you. And I also want to give a shout out to the 200 amazing people joining us live. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. If you are new, we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Subscribe if you'd like to, and come hang out. Yo, Donnie, the producer, the legend, the moderator, the all-around Chad, says, do you think Xbox is finally making inroads getting Japanese game support in Xbox? Will it ever be Xbox 360 levels of support? Why are geese so mean? What is the nuclear binding force in an atom's nucleus? And what is life? Oh, okay, what is life? Well, when a man and a woman love each other very much.
Well, we went very different directions.
Okay. I'm going to focus on, I assume, the actual question here. I'm sorry, I'm not going to subscribe to my 20 tape series to get the answer to what is the meaning of life. It's only $99.95 per week for 18 weeks. You can have the answer to what is life. But Japanese games and Japanese support on Xbox, you know your boy's been out there grinding, hustling, out in the streets, working behind the scenes to get some answers as to what is going on in terms of Xbox and relationship with Japanese developers and publishers. Fans perceive certain things as publishers or developers not liking Xbox or hating Xbox fans. It's not really that, from what I've gathered, but there are some painful business realities Microsoft has to figure out to make sure that they aren't a platform that people feel that they can skip. And that's where some teams feel is either, PlayStation is going to buy exclusivity when it comes to Square Enix for big games, but a lot of smaller publishers genuinely look at Xbox ports as not financially viable. And that's a rough place to be. That is a really rough place to be for a platform when someone says it's not even worth it for me to bring my game to Xbox. Because we on the outside, we look at it and say, if you bring your game everywhere, it's going to sell more, and so therefore you'll make more money. But the reality is a port is expensive. And if they feel that the port isn't going to justify the cost and the time, they're not going to do it. And that's where a lot of this comes from, is they start on the platforms where there's going to be more or less guaranteed success or more guaranteed success, and then go everywhere else if it's financially viable. When it comes to Xbox and Japanese publishers, they are investing heavily. We've seen, improvements with Atlas as a primary example. We've seen there was a brief period of time where Square seemed like they were down to clown with Xbox when they added every single Final Fantasy to Game Pass and Octopath Traveler, and there was these moments and momentum that suggested, all right, things are looking up. But then we see the sales for Xbox consoles in Japan every week, and it's in the hundreds versus 50,000 for PlayStation, 40,000 for Switch. Xbox Series X and S combined are selling a couple hundred. And you say, what's going on? Like, why isn't the Japanese audience connecting with the Xbox machine? And that's going to be a tough situation for Xbox to figure out. But there is potential for Xbox to gain back market share and mind share, because they are ensuring consistent support from Bandai Namco, which has been huge. A lot of the biggest Bandai Namco games are multi-plat. A lot of the biggest Capcom games are multi-plat, and they've had a really strong relationship with Sega and Atlas as of late. So those things and those franchises that are must-plays will ensure that they get consistent support. But the more and more must-play franchises that they lose, the harder and harder it's going to be to convince people to work with you. And so, as much as Final Fantasy isn't for everyone, Final Fantasy is still a big blow when it comes to, the perception and optics of Japanese support on Xbox.
I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the console wars are 50-50, that, it's either Xbox or PlayStation in an even split. Like, so why wouldn't you go to half your audience or whatnot? People make that mistake optically when in fact it's very 80-20, especially outside of the American market. And maybe that's not exact, but the point is there are far fewer Xboxes than PlayStations, and that means fewer customers. So they have to make it financially viable for people to make the port. And that's a painful and difficult thing to hear for some people. And I recognize that. It is not to be ignored that Xbox has really worked hard in the late Xbox One and Series SX generations, that they're trying to build those relationships. You look at like things like Naraka Blade Point, Kart Drifter, which is a game that nobody probably remembers, but that has a huge audience. Even Crossfire had a huge audience overseas, and those were meant to make inroads next to the Yakuza games coming to Game Pass, next to the building of a relationship with Square with all the Final Fantasies, which seemingly didn't pay dividends. I guess they didn't see the engagement they wanted to because Sony was willing to put down the money and Xbox not willing to counter it in order to bring a number of Square and Final Fantasy titles exclusively to PlayStation. And part of the onus is on Xbox for not being willing to make those deals. Part of it's on consumers for not being willing to check them out. But it is what it is. Xbox has done a far better job in the last few years of building and courting Japanese developers. They continue to do so. Don't forget, Hi-Fi Rush was
Tango, baby.
Tango Gameworks, which put out another one of my favorite games of late, which is Ghostwire Tokyo. I really vibed with that game, unexpectedly, I might add. And the relationship continues to build, and I think it really comes down to, are you giving people a reason to go into your ecosystem? Because once they get an Xbox, then they're going to want to check out the games that interest them and diversify. And so if you can get people buying an Xbox in the Asian markets, then they're more likely to explore that ecosystem more heavily. And Redfall was supposed to be that. Starfield is intended to be that. And who knows what they have in store, leaks or otherwise, to try and entice those markets and entice people all around the world to buy an Xbox.
Yeah, and Phil Spencer's comments on the kind of funny Xcast about, if Starfield is an 11 out of 10, people won't sell their PlayStations. People interpreted that in a lot of different ways, but that's kind of the reality for a certain percentage of the console market, is that they're invested in a platform. So Xbox's play shouldn't be that we want to replace what they're most invested in. We want to make sure that we give people an undeniable reason to invest in us additionally.
Right.
And as long as they can do that and grow that mind share and market share, there is potential for a smaller percentage of people to maybe convert to Xbox as their primary platform. But the end goal here is not necessarily to make Xbox the main platform for everyone who plays on Xbox, but to make Xbox a platform that more people need to play on, generally speaking. And those big tentpole releases, that's how you get people in the door. But as we've talked about, once you're in the door and you have Xbox Game Pass, you're constantly getting something. So the incentive to leave the Xbox platform, it's not really there. And that's where Xbox is very strong right now, is they're doing a lot when it comes to the platform and services to keep people happy. But from just a general casual optics, not the people like us who understand that Pentiment's great, Hi-Fi Rush is great, there's been a lot of great releases for Xbox, but for the average person who just looks at PlayStation, Nintendo, and the marketing and the money and sees these big must-play experiences and say, oh, well, I guess I'll get a PlayStation. Hogwarts Legacy, a primary recent example where a huge percentage of people who didn't have a next-gen platform bought a PlayStation to play Hogwarts Legacy. Not to play a PlayStation exclusive per se, but to buy Hogwarts Legacy because of the marketing. But you combine that with the fact that we just came off the back of God of War Ragnarok, we have Spider-Man around the corner, and someone looking at either an Xbox or a PlayStation right this second, right now in the market says, well, there's more PlayStation stuff coming, so I'm gonna get that. And again, we are in the know. We know Xbox has a huge slate of Xbox Game Studios titles coming, but the average person probably doesn't, because they're not getting a Super Bowl commercial or a YouTube or a movie theater ad for Spider-Man and God of War, because that's the level that PlayStation advertises and markets. And it's effective. We know it's effective. It is.
Yeah, and the idea of like PlayStation makes deals that make it difficult to be Xbox. Make the deal back. You're Microsoft. You got money.
Phil Spencer came out and said, like, don't cut us any slack. All right, we have the resources to do it. And that's the hard reality, is they have more resources than most companies can fathom. So they're not in a position where they can say, oh, that was too expensive for us.
Right.
Because then at the end of the day, it's just people invested in the platform who suffer. Really. That's what it comes down to. So, Luke,
Yes.
One more Summer Game Fest question before we move on and talk about
Okay.
the big Xbox game showcase, the final predictions. The witching hour is almost upon us. What were your least favorite moments of Summer Game Fest?
I almost didn't give them time. A lot of the games that had like quick sizzle reel, like the MMO stuff, I want to say like Throne and Liberty, didn't speak to me. High profile or high quality, like I guess you would say, CGI trailers didn't really get to me. The Twisted Metal show I think was the low point. Goodness gracious, that was awful and difficult to watch. So that was probably my worst moment because like some of the stuff I wouldn't care about, but to love Twisted Metal and then to see that trailer and to love Anthony Mackie as well and see that, it's just like, what are we doing? That's my new Captain America. Like what's happening here? That show looks so bad and like it looks Halo bad. And that breaks my soul again.
No,
So.
it looks beyond Halo bad. My
Was rough.
God, dude. Wow. That was the moment to me that hurt. That moment hurt because I love Twisted Metal. I love Will Arnett. Anthony Mackie is fantastic.
Hmm.
When we got the first tease, the vibe of Twisted Metal seemed off. We all complained about the song choice for the debut trailer. The tone.
And they made no improvements and no car in the next one.
Yeah, and then you had Will Arnett come out and he didn't look that stoked. He was like in his bathroom and he's like, "Hey, this is Will Arnett and I'm in Twisted Metal. Here you go." And we watched a scene from the Twisted Metal show and it looks worse than I could fathom. I had no expectations for this. I was going to watch it because I was hoping to be campy and goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa! If that's what they are using to say, hey, you should watch this show, I'm scared to see what the other 27 minutes of that episode looks like because, dude,
it was bad. It was real bad.
I don't like to just roast on things, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't wrap my head around that scene and the jokes. And I'm someone who liked the Resident Evil Netflix series. All right, let me just say that. I'm not someone who hated the Resident Evil series because I thought it was self-aware with how campy and dumb it was. And I feel like Twisted Metal wants to be that, is going for that tone, but falling so short. The Hawaiian Punch joke? The Hawaiian Punch joke, Luke?
It didn't even, like, the audio didn't match either. Like, Sweet Tooth's mouth would move, and then you'd hear Will Arnett's voice differently. And it was just like, this is not it, man. This is not it. Get back in the car. You even said it. And Thong Song made no sense either. Like, I didn't get, like, I don't know, man. I was just so heartbreaking to watch that.
Lol, so random, am I right? Thong Song, but that shouldn't be in the Twisted Metal show. That's silly. That's just goofy. What do they do? That's the whole energy of that. It probably sounded fun on paper, but the execution so far, based on the brief glimpses we've seen, I'm worried. It's on Peacock. I have Peacock currently, so I'm gonna watch it. I'm going to watch it, Luke, and I hope that this was just a bad showing. You know, that really, when you really invest in it, it nails the beats. It knows what it's trying to be, and it delivers a fantastic show that reminds everyone why Twisted Metal is such an important franchise.
Yeah. That's all I got. I can't fake it. I'm the find the fun guy, and I was like, oof.
That one hurt. That's for me. That's the moment where I was like, yikes. This made Nick Cage look like an absolute rock star in comparison. Wow. So yeah, people generally aren't stoked about trailers for multimedia stuff, but Twisted Metal made sense because it was a video game property. So there's probably some overlap between the Summer Game Fest audience and people who might watch the Twisted Metal show. But man, that showing was not it.
It hurt.
Not it. All right, quick super chat from Robert Kellett, who says, "You guys ready to hold the line tomorrow?" If you're unaware, King David of Iron Lords, that's been his mantra as we inch towards the showcase. Hold the line. You know, don't worry. Xbox is going to be bringing the heat. the mentality there. So
They've had every chance to say otherwise, and they doubled. Oh no, they doubled down.
they doubled down there. It's all coming together. It's in your brain. We've planted that seed. You're gonna be walking down the street. You're gonna see the double down banner on the side of the KFC window, and you're gonna say to yourself, "Time. It's finally time that I do
Nope.
this. Do it for the people. All right. Do it for the people."
Ugh.
Ugh. Okay, before we talk about final predictions for the Xbox Games Showcase, it's important to touch on the fact that for the most part, this show has not leaked.
Hmm.
Xbox historically has had a lot of big reveals and key moments leak for their showcases. And usually it's late game, usually it's retailers, usually there's a lot of oopsie daisies right before the show that can spoil some of the big reveals.
Mhm.
So I will say we're going to talk about a couple, so for folks aiming to go in spoiler free, just note for the next few minutes, we are going to talk about some potential spoilers. But
Mhm.
if you've been on social media, if you've been on Twitter, if you've been on YouTube, you've already seen these. These are not surprises. These aren't cryptic leaks from insiders. These are, in a lot of cases, big oopsies from official partners of this event and show. So just want to preface that in case you are trying to go in completely blind. But the first one comes from our pals at Atlas, who on their official Instagram dropped a couple of trailers 2 days ago.
Mhm.
And those two trailers were for the Persona 3 Reload, which is a remake of Persona 3, and Persona 5 Tactica. And to add insult to injury for Xbox, they had the coming to day one splash screen at the end of the
Mhm.
trailers as well. So,
Yeah.
oops!
How badly did Xbox want that moment at their show? Because that's a big get. It's a big win. It addresses the exact question of building relationships with Japanese developers and audiences, and now it's going to miss for some. But I will say, a lot of people that are going to see that are not going to be in the know, and they're going to be excited and happy, and that's good, at least.
Yeah, we've had the Persona 3 remake rumors floating around for a little while now. Like,
Mhm.
it was a kind of a insider secret or known
Mhm.
information that a Persona 3 remake was in the works, according to
Mhm.
people familiar with Atlas development. And so we expected that to be coming in a lot of ways, but the opportunity for Xbox to have that as one of their big surprises for those two high profile games coming day one to Xbox Game Pass, as I touched on in my predictions and as I touched on previously, I want to see Xbox continue to demonstrate its commitments to Japanese publishers and Japanese games, because that is going to be the best way that they can convince more and more teams to continue to work with them. And so
Mhm.
this is that. This is a huge testament to Xbox's commitments to Japanese publishers. They're saying,
Mhm.
Atlas, believe in your game. We want to support your game, and we are willing to give you, I imagine, a fair amount of money, because Persona 3 Reload, while it probably wouldn't set the world on fire in terms of sales, it probably will do a few million units, which means the Xbox Game Pass deal is going to have to be pretty substantial, because they want to make
Right.
sure that they're, it needs to be a win-win. Xbox's main mantra and their main selling point when working with developers is it needs to be a win-win. You need to feel good about putting your game in Xbox Game Pass. It needs to do
Mhm.
well for you in terms of players, and it needs to do well for you financially. And Xbox wants to have those high-profile moments. So it needs
Mhm.
to be a win-win. And Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica coming to Xbox Game Pass, those are big wins for Xbox fans, for the Xbox platform, and Atlas, who historically hasn't had Persona on the Xbox platform, so they probably want to get as many people as possible playing these games. So when the inevitable Persona 6 hits, that audience is now established on the Xbox platform.
Exactly. They want to be the place where you can play everything Persona in one spot.
Exactly. So I think that's a smart play, and I love to see Xbox invest in big IP in that way. And it felt like Final Fantasy could have been that. It felt like that was maybe the end goal with Final Fantasy, was to have that similar moment where they're trying to
Mhm.
get more and more Xbox fans familiar and excited about the brand. So when the next big game hits, that there is that momentum. But then, PlayStation obviously, potentially saw that as a threat and said, no, we got to shut that down. We got to shut that
Right.
down real quick. We want the brand association with Final Fantasy, so we're going to go call Square and say, how much money do you want? Because we need this. And so Xbox, unfortunately, whether it's fair or not, whether you agree with the business practices or not, Xbox needs to be more aggressive about those kind of deals. And maybe not necessarily exclusivity, but I think that's a way that they can leverage their position, is they can say, you don't have to give us exclusivity, but why not give us Xbox Game Pass? That way you can sell on PlayStation. You have an audience there. You have an audience on Nintendo. We're not trying to take away from that. We just want it on Game Pass. And I think that is a strong bargaining chip that Xbox has up its sleeve that PlayStation and Nintendo don't. Because I will say, generally speaking, a lot of these publishers, when they're in a strong financial position, they don't necessarily want to do exclusivity. Usually it benefits the platform way more than it benefits the game. But if you're struggling financially, if you're in a tight spot, exclusivity is a way to offset risks and offset investments. So you have a guaranteed cushion that a lot of games don't get, a lot of publishers don't have. And that can be stressful, and that can, make you do business decisions that you don't necessarily want to do. So Xbox Game Pass for Xbox is a strong bargaining chip, and I'm excited to see them lean into it without necessarily saying this has to be an exclusive. Persona 3 Reload has to be an exclusive, because if it were the other side, that would be PlayStation's bargaining chip. They'd say, we'll give you all this marketing money, we'll give you all this attention, but it needs to be an exclusive. It needs to be a PlayStation exclusive. So again, I don't like when franchises are taken away arbitrarily because of business deals. So I like to see Xbox lean into Game Pass, and it seems like they are doing that with Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica.
Persona 5 what?
Tactica.
Okay. Your mic cut out, and I was like, wait, what?
I whispered for dramatic effect.
You whispered it. Okay, got it. Tactica. Okay.
Tactica.
Cool. Tactica. Okay.
And then the only other thing that's really officially leaked, and again, I see some people dipping out for spoiler reasons. That's fine. I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to do so, but these are relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. Starfield deets in terms of pricing, in terms of controllers and a headset. You've probably seen the leaked images of the controller, which have been floating around on social media for weeks now. But there's a Starfield controller and headset apparently coming, and we also got, according to Deal Labs magazine, the prices and different editions for Starfield. Luke, have you seen this? Have you seen this info?
I've seen the info. I'm excited for Starfield, and I never expected to be. Todd Howard's games have never spoken to me, but a lot of my taste in gaming have. Yeah, I know. I never got into Skyrim. Never did Fallout.
Not Fallout 3. Fallout 3 didn't sing to your core.
Not a bit. Not a bit. But I will tell you, as we approach Starfield, I'm getting excited in a way that I wasn't expecting to. Much like this showcase, as we get closer, I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling it. And I think it was the controller. The images of that controller, that is one of the prettiest controllers I've ever seen. I'm like, well, I need that.
You can't very well have life.
Yeah. You can't have a controller without the system. And like, I'm excited for this one. Depending on what's in the special edition, I could be tempted. I don't know if you could see over my right shoulder on the left side. Like, I'm all about that Gears life, and like a good system that looks good, a good controller that looks good, that gets people in. And I'm feeling Starfield. So I'm
feeling I mean, I've publicly talked about how sci-fi RPGs aren't historically my jam. I love Bethesda, Skyrim, baby. Dark fantasy RPGs, feed it to me, dude. Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. And I love me some Fallout. Fallout 3, one of my favorite games of all time. So I love the Bethesda RPG formula. But I've been, skeptical of Starfield because it's not that I am worried about the game being bad in any way, shape, or form. I'm just worried that I'm not going to love it in the same way that I've loved previous Bethesda games just because of the setting. That being said, The Outer Worlds surprised me in a huge way. I loved The Outer Worlds. That game spoke to me. That game made me feel like I was back playing Fallout 3 for the first time and just really delivering. So I'm hoping Starfield connects. I will be playing Starfield day one, but that controller's sexy. That controller looks so good. But if you are curious to know what the potential additions are for Starfield, it looks like the base edition will be 70, which we did know. A premium edition will be over $100. There's some conversion with euros that's off. They're saying it's like 114, but I don't know if that's accurate. And there will be a super special Constellation edition for $300. How often do
Curious.
you ball out for the like $300 ultimate editions of games?
Yeah. Sometimes, like I've got the Cal Kestis lightsaber sitting right up there. You know, I was there for the Star Wars one, and then I bought a fight stick for Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Some games will talk to me, and I'm like, you know what, I need to have it. Others, I just need the Steelbook, right? I just need the Steelbook in there. Depending on how it looks and depending on what we see at the showcase, I could be tempted. That Spider-Man 2 special edition's looking real sweet though, with that
Ooh,
Venom statue.
the just yoked out Venom just flexing with two Spider-Men on him. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. Right? I'm gonna play it by ear. I've been known. I've been known to go in. You can see behind me. I got some statues in there. So if it's the right mix, that we're there. But I will say $300 is a touch much, unless it's a console. That feels a little bit hefty. And Bethesda needs to be a little cautious with their pricing after Redfall. Xbox needs Bethesda to be cautious with pricing after Redfall. Make sure that you are giving the people what you say you're giving them. That's what I will put out there. So,
Yeah, $300 is a lot. I had to have an intervention with myself because I used to
Mhm.
buy all of the physical collector's editions. I used to
Mhm.
every time a big game came out, I was there buying this big stupid box, getting the big statue, and I just had no space. And I had a shelf full of statues, and then I had
Mhm.
boxes full because I didn't have anywhere to put them. And I was like,
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
No more. So I haven't really bought a collector's edition in quite some time for that reason. Just because
Mhm.
I don't have the space, and I think it's cool, but then it ends up just being in a box, living there forever, and I never get to enjoy it. So I'm like, why am I spending the money on this if I'm not actually going to display it anywhere? So I'm not the audience for that, but clearly they think there is an audience of Bethesda fans who will throw down $300, and hopefully what they deliver is worth $300. That can
Mhm.
always be the difficult challenge if it's your typical, here's the vinyl, here's an art book, here's a
Right.
statue. That's not worth $300, I think, to the average person. But maybe they're doing something really cool, and I'm hoping obviously we'll get a chance to see what that is at the show.
Yeah.
But like you
Agree.
said, $300, that's a Series S right there. That's a
Yeah.
That being said, at one point in time, when Resident Evil 6 did a $6,000 limited edition of Resident Evil 6, thought about it. I thought
No,
about
you
it.
didn't. No.
It had this like
Miles.
designer Leon S. Kennedy leather jacket. If you've played a Resident Evil 6, that leather jacket he wears in that, they had some bougie Italian designer, I think, do like a 1-to-1 replica of his jacket. And there was only like 45 of them made, but it was 6 G's, boy.
Man,
6,000 US dollars.
I
Woo!
was so excited for Resident Evil 6 at the time. I was midnight launching it. I was so stoked. That was a rough day.
Yeah. In hindsight, probably glad that I didn't spend $6,000 on Resident Evil.
Probably. Probably.
All right, now we're at the climax of the show today. We're going to be talking about the Xbox Games Showcase. So if you're excited about the show, if you're ready to have a good time, hit that like button, share it out. We're going to be talking about your official predictions, Luke's official predictions, my updated predictions, and the wild things that we might see at the show. So if you're watching live, drop those predictions in the chat. I want to hear from you. Before I share mine, because I've already officially done mine with
Mhm.
Randall Thor 19. We've
Mhm.
shared some updated ones on Windows Central. So my predictions for the most part are out in the world already. Luke, I want to hear from you. What are the games you think we are going to see from Xbox at the Xbox Game Showcase 2023?
You want me to list them? Give you one at a time? What's your jam here?
Whatever you're feeling,
Okay.
if you want the back and forth on single games, I'm here for it. If you want to dump the list, I'm also here for it.
All right. Well, I think it's par for the course to say Fable at this point, given the marketing, given their refusal to walk back the marketing. The social posts with the glitter and stuff. Fable will be there. I think Fable needs to be there. I'm really curious to see what it is that Playground brings to the table for Fable, because we know them so well from Forza Horizon. So Fable opens the show. I think you start off with Fable, and that is a good choice to do. I was never a Fable guy. Fantasy was not my jam. It wasn't until Witcher 3 that I got into fantasy. Dragon's Dogma, I got into fantasy. Dragon's Dogma and Witcher took me in through that realm. But I think you see Fable there. I think you see Avowed as well. Avowed has to be there. I think it's time to see some Avowed gameplay. Xbox has a problem in that we've seen so much of their portfolio titles, and it's time now to see, all right, what are we getting in 2023, 2024? I don't want to see anything after 2024 unless it's in a sizzle reel. So I think Fable and Avowed you're going to see. I think Avowed is in holiday 2024. Fable is I don't know when Fable maybe holiday 24. I'm not really sure where those two would line up, but you got to have them both next year. I would think. I want to see an update on Perfect Dark, and I want to see a spectacle game. Xbox has had some benchmark showcase pieces from the coalition for why you should have a console. You know, Gears 5, Gears 4, 3, and 2 all punched above their weight for the visuals they showed, right? You had an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One, an Xbox One S, X, etc. Gears push the envelope. So we need a spectacle game. I don't know that you get Gears 6, but I want to see a reason or a game that pushes my box to the peak. I think you see obviously Forza Motorsport's going to be there. I bet you see State of Decay. We need an update on that. What does a AAA budget look like for State of Decay? And you know, I think you get updates for Hi-Fi Rush. You get a Grounded. Here's what's happening with Grounded. Here's what happened with Sea of Thieves. They give you some sizzle size stuff for their live service games. Maybe even you get a sizzle for Halo, but don't show Halo. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it unless you got the Battle Royale. You can put it in a quick sizzle reel, but don't spend any time on it. I think you see Evil Within 3, Miles.
Whoa!
I think you see
Whoa!
Evil Within 3. Tango is firing on all cylinders. They had a team working on Hi-Fi. They had a team that wrapped up Ghostwire, and then they had a port team. So what's the Ghostwire team been working on? Is it Evil Within 3? Is that happening? I think it needs to happen. So I think you see that that's they're working on it. Add that to the slate of stuff that we know. What's id up to? What is Machine Games up to? What are we doing with some of these studios? And what are we doing with some of the size projects that are like? Do we have another Pentiment size project? Do we have another Hi-Fi Rush size project? What are we doing in the indie to double A Xbox games, right? In terms of like size of project, I'm there for it. And then I think you've got a big problem if you don't see Hellblade 2. You launched your console on a commercial with Hellblade 2, and it was fantastic. It's time to see it. Put up or shut up. Is that the spectacle game? Maybe so, but real talk, man, they've got a lot that they could do. And I'm more excited, Miles, for the stuff that we don't know. Do we have an Evil Within 3 type of announcement? Do we have something special that we just don't see coming? I think we do. I think you get one or two of those moments. And some people are even speculating that Forza Motorsport's a shadow drop. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. You need 2 games for the rest of the year, and I think you got Starfield September, you got Forza Motorsport November, because Stalker 2 is not happening. They're not at this showcase. I would have said Stalker 2 if we didn't hear otherwise. So I don't know, man.
You're painting a picture of a stacked show, Luke. I gotta say.
They didn't walk it back, and they've got a lot to. And think about what I didn't mention in there. There's a lot that we know about that I didn't mention. A lot of studios that I didn't mention. So yeah, it's a stacked show, brother.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for the show, and there's a lot of potential every year. And ever since the investments into Xbox Game Studios, the acquisition of Bethesda, the investments into Xbox Game Studios publishing, the Kojima project, there's been a lot of possibility. As soon as those things start happening, you think that's the expectation and it's going to happen every time or could happen every time. And that's what makes an Xbox show exciting. I see some people in the chat who are skeptical and say Xbox doesn't really deliver it at shows. They fail to deliver consistently. And I think they have historically overpromised and underdelivered in a lot of ways. And I think based on their recent sense of confidence, the way that they've been messaging with fans, the way that I've seen every single core person teasing from Xbox, teasing and promoting this show in a way I've never, ever seen them do before. Again, it's in their best interest to get people to watch the show, but it's not in their best interest to disappoint people with their show. And the fact that Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer and Josh Stein and every single person who's involved, and Aaron Greenberg, all of these core people from Xbox who communicate directly with the audience, the fact that they are all every single day setting this expectation that it's going to be a killer show, you have to think that maybe this is the one where they actually deliver a just unquestionably killer show. And so I'm excited. I'm always excited because I like to think about the wild possibilities, but this year, more than most, I'm very excited. Last year, and I've talked about this before, I hope people clip it if I'm wrong, but I talked about this show, Xbox Game Showcase 2023, having the most realistic potential of being that mythical E3 of dreams for Xbox that PlayStation had, where all of these big games were there. We get updates for all of these games. And 2023 still is poised and positioned to be potentially one of their best, if not their best showcase ever. Now, will they actually deliver their best showcase ever? Who knows? That is a question we will ask until the end of time. Especially if this show, we come out on the other side disappointed. If fans come out of the other side of this show disappointed, then the road to next year's show is going to be awful, just miserable.
It is. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, it is rare that I will blame the publisher or it's rare that I would say we blame Xbox if we're disappointed by the show. Because sometimes in content creation and spaces where people are watching content created for their topic, we like to blow things out of proportion. We like to overhype things. This is a rare case where the people in charge, the people that could temper, have chosen to actively not. Where literally the leader of PR for Xbox is like, no, I'm not going to tell you to temper expectations. On the back of a disappointing Redfall launch, on the back of Phil Spencer saying, hey, no one should believe me because, and he's right, we shouldn't believe him. We shouldn't take him at his word. But when I look at Xbox's releases in this generation, the exception of one, they've all been good to great.
Yeah.
Niche, sure, but all been good to great, save for one. And then you look at them actively saying like, no, be hyped. And they know full well what fan backlash is like.
They've experienced it more than most. They know. They know.
And
well.
And their Xbox, they are held to a standard that the other two are not. And it's a bet of their own making. It's a bet of their own making when you can afford to make some missteps when you put out Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, God of War, and Last of Us. You can have a bad showcase or a disappointing showcase and people will forgive. But Xbox is under a different microscope because they don't have a Ghost. They don't have a Spider-Man, a God of War, etc. And so until they start having it, the expectations are different. And they could have walked this back at any time. So, do I feel a little out of pocket logically to say Fable and Avowed and State of Decay? A little bit. It battles my sensibilities, but also, yeah, you've got the chance to walk it back, and you haven't.
Xbox is very in tune with their audience. More in tune than most. More in tune than PlayStation. More in tune than Nintendo. You have people from Xbox on the highest level engaging directly with fans. Engaging directly with the community. Listening to community feedback in a realistic way. And so they know. They have to know what fans want from this show They have to know what the expectation is. And based on Phil Spencer's interview with kind of Funny XCast, they know
Mhm.
how the community feels about Xbox right now. And they know that some people within the community are not high on Xbox as a platform or a brand right now.
I see someone in chat, Lethal Migraine, saying that nobody should believe Phil because he's underdelivered since 2010. I want to push back on that. I think it is true that Xbox community creators often evangelize Phil Spencer, and I would push back on evangelizing any human being that is doing their job and whatnot. But in his tenure, you had uh, Games with Gold get created, Game Pass get created, the Xbox One original put out in favor of the Xbox One S and One X. You had Play Anywhere initiative become the set standard for Xbox. You saw Game Pass grow. You saw two fantastic consoles in Series S and X. You saw multiple studios be acquired and deliver on top tier games. Deathloop and Ghostwire being recent. You saw Microsoft Flight Simulator. You saw Halo Infinite's exceptionally good launch despite troubles of overpromising. Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport. There's a lot that he has done well, and I think it's disingenuous to paint a picture that one man is the fault or the hero of any company at mass. And so I want to push back on that idea just a little bit. And he's also the first one that says, hey, don't do it until you're playing the game. And I've played a lot of games that Xbox has made, and a lot of them have been friggin' fantastic. So
Yeah, again, I think it's worth shouting out Phil Spencer's recent comments regarding the Redfall situation because
yeah.
I'll be honest, I thought they were just going to be quiet. I thought they were going to say a word about that and
Mhm.
just wait for the showcase to hopefully distract from that noise.
Right.
And so for Phil Spencer to come out and basically jump on the grenade and take the fault, that is the sign of at least a compassionate leader at the
Yeah.
very least. And I think in the business world in particular, we need more of that.
Yeah.
I see so many people justify, oh, it's just business for horrible things, horrible treatment of
Mm-hmm.
people. And I just, that's not sustainable for any of us. If that's the
Agree.
mentality that because it's business, you can do anything that you want to do without repercussion, we're all going to
Mm-hmm.
be in a very unfortunate situation in the next 20 years, especially with this push into AI. So I want to believe that there are people in high positions who, at the very least, care slightly about the people that work for them. Like that
Yeah.
is like I need to believe that that's a thing.
Yeah.
And so Microsoft, as much as they could be like a big evil tech giant because they have unlimited resources to do so, when I see
Mm-hmm.
people in leadership positions communicate and message that way on a genuine human level, it does
Mm-hmm.
give me some faith in our future a little bit.
Agree. Agree. He
So
said he'd bet on him again, and you should.
should
You should.
exactly. So in terms of predictions for this show, I'm gonna recap some of my bigger ones. I
Okay.
think we're getting the Holy Dark Fantasy Trinity at this show. I think we're getting Fable.
Yep.
I think we're gonna get our first look at Fable. I'm I'm torn whether it's. I don't think it's gonna be a full fledged gameplay showcase. I do think it's gonna be some in-engine stuff with
Mm-hmm.
cinematics and a narrator that paint a picture of the new Albion, paint a new picture of the tone and world of Fable, with maybe some gameplay sprinkled in. But I think it's going to
Okay.
be a more traditional trailer that just sets the atmosphere of what Fable is, what the new Fable is, because outside of the tease, we don't know. We haven't seen anything, and I don't know exactly where the development timeline for Fable is. But if I
Mm-hmm.
had to throw a rough window out, I could see it as a holiday 2024 release. But with that
Mm-hmm.
being said, I don't think they're going to give us any sort of release window with Fable specifically. But I think Fable will be there. I would be genuinely shocked if Fable wasn't at this show in one way, shape, or form. People might be disappointed if it doesn't end up being the full gameplay blowout, but
Mm-hmm.
if it is further away, I hope they lean into like a remaster or a collection of some kind to tide people over. Here's your look at Fable. Get excited about Fable. We still have some work to do, but in the meantime, revisit Albion. I think would be a great way to message Fable. I think Avowed is going to be there as well. Again, we talk about setting expectations. We talk about messaging from Xbox. Phil Spencer straight up said Avowed and Hellblade 2 as two games that were coming in the quarters following Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way to interpret what he said. He
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Avowed and Hellblade 2 as games part of their big game per quarter roadmap. And so those games, if they are truly coming that soon, they have to be here. So Avowed, I think, is going to be here. I think Avowed is the game we get the big gameplay showcase of. Whether it's a small 3-minute trailer or just a full gameplay walkthrough of some kind, we are going to see Avowed gameplay. And I think Avowed will get some sort of release window.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the wording? Because they can't say in the next 12 months, and nor should they.
They won't. They won't.
74% of the games they showed in last year's showcase came out. Pretty good track record in the gaming industry, I would think. But you can't say that, and then people will be able to latch onto it later.
I think unless they have the hard date, they're just going to give years if they do anything. So Hellblade 2, I think, is also going to be there. I think Hellblade 2 has a chance to be a holiday 2023 release. Again, we've seen Hellblade several times. Hellblade has been in active development for some time now. They've been confident enough to show us gameplay for Hellblade. I think Hellblade 2 has the best chance of being Xbox's marquee holiday 2023 release. You have Starfield in September. Maybe we have Hellblade 2 late November, early December. But if not, I think Hellblade 2 gets at the latest a Q1 2024 release window. So if they're not confident in the holiday release date, they're not going to say it. But if they don't do holiday, it's going to be Q1. So I think what it's going to look like for Xbox potentially in the next few quarters is we're going to have Starfield, followed by Hellblade 2, followed by Avowed. So if Hellblade is Q4, the big holiday release for Xbox, then I think Avowed is Q1. And if Hellblade is Q1, I think Avowed is Q2 of 2024. But for Avowed, I think we're just going to get 2024. Just the year 2024. Give themselves plenty of wiggle room in that sense. And it would be awesome if they could nail that for early 2024. But considering Phil Spencer stated Hellblade 2 and Avowed and mentioned playable builds of Avowed specifically, I think that's a safe bet for a first half of 2024.
See, I think it's Forza Motorsport and Starfield for the end of this year. Hellblade 2 is Q1 or Q2. Summertime is Avowed. And I'm curious. I don't know what I would do for the end of next year. But I definitely think Hellblade is the beginning of 2024.
Yep.
That's what I think.
And Forza Motorsport will get a release date. That will be there for sure. Mm-hmm. I assume that's coming after Starfield. I assume if it was coming sooner, we would have gotten the date already. So I assume that's coming after Starfield. I also think we will get some sort of Japanese segment for Xbox. We know, we pretty much know Persona is going to be there. Ahead of that leaking, I was talking about how Xbox will have some big partnership to announce, or will announce some big partnership with a noteworthy Japanese publisher or developer. That kind of checks that box. But I also think that there could be opportunities for us to see Kojima's Xbox project. Ahead of Summer Game Fest last year, there were leaks going around regarding what is codenamed Overdose, or what might be called Overdose. And there were people who had seen some kind of trailer for a Kojima horror game. And that makes me feel like that they were trying to get a trailer ready for last year. And considering that we just had Kojima come out and basically say, hey, this Xbox collaboration is real, was maybe a fill for the fact that maybe they were trying to have the big reveal for the game. It wasn't quite ready. So then they just leaned into Kojima coming out and talking about the game. But if that was the reality, that means we're a year away from a world where they had something to show. So I feel like there's a genuine possibility we see the Kojima project as well at the Xbox showcase. In terms of previously announced Xbox projects that get updates, I think it mostly will be Avowed, Hellblade, and Fable. I personally am not expecting Perfect Dark. I would love to see Everwild. I would love to see Everwild so much. And I would love to see State of Decay 3. But based on where they're at, I'm not expecting to see those two. With all of the cyberpunk noise and the expansion release date floating around, there's a chance that Xbox would have Cyberpunk, which I think is a weird play. Personally, I know they already had the marketing in the past, but considering the launch of that game, considering the saga of that game, I think that's weird. But
Unless it's coming to Game Pass.
Exactly. Unless it's coming to Game Pass. So maybe they announced the original's coming to Game Pass to get you ready for the expansion in fall 2023. So I could see something like that. I also think there's potential. I'm conflicted on this because when I originally talked about this was before Capcom announced their own show. But Capcom is telling people they're going to sell over 42 million units in the year from March to March. And the only franchise that they have that much weight for in terms of raw unit sales in a year is Monster Hunter. Is a new Monster Hunter. So whether it's at the Xbox show or Capcom's own show, I think we see Monster Hunter World 2 or whatever the successor to Monster Hunter World is. Because again, that's the only way Capcom is hitting those targets. Street Fighter's going to do well. Exoprimal is going to do probably fine. And
I'm excited for that game.
I'm excited for it too. I'm stoked for it. That pitch is for me absolutely. Yep. And Resident Evil 4 we know is going to do well. But those combined were at 20 million.
If your Monster Hunter comes true, it's going to be shown at Xbox, more at Capcom. You know what I mean?
Again, that the timing suggests that could be it. We get the big reveal at the Xbox show, and we get the gameplay because the wording of the Capcom showcase says updates. It doesn't say new reveals at the Capcom show. They specifically mention some games and they say updates. So a 1-2 punch of Monster Hunter World on Sunday at Xbox and the breakdown at the Capcom show. That's a slap. That's a bop. That's a W right there.
Yep.
And then outside of that, I want to see Gear 6. I would love to see Gear 6 show. And I would love them to do, again, that fabled Gears collection that people have been talking about for a long time. I would love if that was a reality. Again, we get maybe a tease of Gear 6, and then they show the Gears of War collection to tide you over. If they can do that, that's a big win for me. That's a big win for fans who want to know what the coalition has been working on. And again, considering the fact that Aaron Greenberg has come out and said that everything shown from Xbox will either be in-engine or gameplay with cinematics, suggests we would be able to see theoretically what Gears looks like in Unreal Engine 5, which we know is going to shine. We know it's going to be a showcase. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I guess that's it. I guess I'll stick with that. You talked about this a little bit, but what starts the show and what ends the show?
Fable starts the show. Avowed is your mid-pillar point. And we don't know what our end point is. They end on something that's unknown. So a surprise announcement like Evil Within 3 or something that we don't know they are working on needs to be the end show, because then they need to transition into Starfield. So you need to kick it up on a really high note. And then how they handle that transition will be interesting, right? Like, are they thinking of Starfield as the end of show? Or are they thinking of final game, cut, then Starfield showcase, right? Like, how are they thinking of it? So I think it's the unknown thing. Maybe it's Phantom Dust 2. You never know. Maybe that's it. But I think it's an unknown.
I know deep down it will not be Phantom Dust 2. If there's two things that Xbox has decided that they're just going to hurt me with forever, it's Everwild and Phantom Dust 2. I'll never see those ever again.
Well, they keep hurting me. There's never a superhero game on Xbox, and I'm the superhero guy. Like, can I get an Arkham collection, please?
Come on.
Like, can we get a Spawn game
here?
Green Lantern?
So I'm with you, but I think I'm a little bit torn about what starts the show and what the midpoint is. I could see Fable starting the show, Avowed being the midpoint, and I could see that flipped. Avowed starts the show, Fable is the big midpoint. And the reason I don't know that Fable would be the finale is because they've teased it so heavily.
Yeah, Fable can't be the finale. Fable's got to be the start or the mid, and I think it's the start because you have teased it. That's one.
I'm kind of with you on that. I could see Fable starting the show, Avowed to get people back in, Hellblade to get people really ramped up, and then something brand new for the finale. Something brand new for the finale to close it out. And there will be a hard divide between the Xbox show and the Starfield Direct. There will be a hard cut. So you end on that huge climax. Everyone says, "Oh my god!" And then you go into the big blowout for Starfield, and that's you finish that strong. You give people Starfield gameplay. You give people some awesome special editions to throw money on after a series of great announcements, and we're set. Oh, sorry for my official predictions. I forgot to mention. I think we're gonna see Project Belfry from Stoic as that Pentiment scale game that could be coming soon. And I also think we're going to see Compulsion games as Compulsion or In Exile. Maybe not both, but we will see Compulsion or In Exile IMO. I'm leaning towards
Shadow
Compulsion.
Drop? Any Shadow Drop game?
Shadow Drop, Fallout 4 Remaster, Fallout 4 on Xbox Series X and S, baby.
Okay, there you go.
I wanted to believe Hollow Knight, but they just came out early May and said Hollow Knight isn't coming the first half. I want to believe maybe they were lying and it is just going to shadow drop at the Xbox show, but that would be the most hype thing they could do is a Hollow Knight shadow drop at the Xbox show. Silk Song, the mythical game. Oh, ooh. What's the biggest surprise we'll see?
Biggest surprise we'll see. That's the $1 million question because we know so much about it. That's why I say Evil Within 3, right? Because we know about Indie, we know about Perfect Dark, we know about so many of these projects. Like maybe what id's working on, not Doom, not Wolfenstein. Like Gear 6 can't be the biggest surprise because we all know it's happening. We all think it's happening. You know, it's got to be something that we do not see coming, and that's. Like, what do you predict on that one? They've shown us so much. Could it be that Star Wars game? There is a Star Wars game. Do we see the Avatar game on display here, and then you pick up more at the next Ubisoft? Like, is that the play? I think that's your big one. Is maybe it's a really big third party, but the reality is, the reason we don't know is because the reason we'll be excited is because we don't know. That's what I'm saying. Got to be something fresh. It can't be something that we think is happening. Like, you show me indie gameplay. Cool. That's not going to move a needle. It's got to be something that's out of nowhere. I can't believe this is happening. Mic drop.
Those are hard. Those are really hard to do. But those are the moments that get people talking. That thing at the end that is a big surprise. That's what keeps people talking about the show, because the end is almost more important than the beginning of the show, because it's the thing that's going to linger and keep the conversation going. And if it's like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for Summer Game Fest, that instantly dominated the rest of the show. That was the talking point. And if Xbox can do something like that, I mean, obviously we knew Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 or whatever they were going to call it was happening. But if Xbox can have a big new reveal at the end of the show, I think that'd be a strong way to do it. I would love to see, what I really want to see is Xbox publish a JRPG. I want to see Xbox go back to 360 roots, have something on the scale of a Lost Odyssey, where it is a partnership with a just famed developer on a new IP, and this grand scale, this grand budget, and really invest in a new Japanese developed franchise for Xbox. That's what I want to see. That would be a big surprise.
A new IP or an established one?
I want to see a new IP. I want to see Xbox establish its own. Again, Xbox has done a good job establishing new IP. They've done a terrible job fostering IP.
Yeah.
They do a lot of one and dones. They release a game people like, and they never, ever touch it again. Ever. And so I would love to see Xbox actually foster some of these IP.
Do we see Banjo, Conquer, Blinks? Do we see a mascot platformer of any kind?
If we see Banjo, it's going to be a remake of the first one. That's the only Banjo I could imagine. And do we see it this year? I know it's a meme at this point. For the Banjo fans, I would love for it to be here this year. I'm going to say no. And maybe my negativity will help manifest it. But I'll say no. Banjo will not be there. Phantom Dust will not be there. And we'll see what happens. Everwild will not be there. And I hope I'm wrong. Faisal 007 says, I think Jet Set Radio will make a big splash. Jet Set Radio at an Xbox show would be dope. We know Sega is working on a new Jet Set Radio. If Xbox gets the flashy gameplay reveal for Jet Set Radio, that would be an awesome third-party get for Xbox at the show. And we know there will be a bunch of third-party games at this show. There's going to be a decent amount of third-party games at the show, in addition to first-party as well. So that would be a big one. That'd be a good third-party get.
Yep. Anytime Xbox and Sega get along, I'm happy. Because I love Dreamcast and Xbox original. A lot of those games felt like Dreamcast games. Some of them legitimately were, but like I like when I see Xbox and Sega get along. So
yeah, and they've been getting along quite well as of late with Like a Dragon, right? That's the official name now. Is the
I'll tell you, yeah, the man who erased his name. Yeah, I will say, it's the right year if you're going to talk about Killer Instinct. It's the right year to do it. You know,
I was just going to say, what's the one thing you want to see that we won't see?
The one thing I want to see is a superhero game of any kind. I want to see Xbox find a way to have that. Like Insomniac does wonders for Sony. I would like to see a superhero genre or game tackled by Xbox again. There are a lot of candidates that haven't been spoken for. Like you could do something with Black Panther. You could do something with Spawn. Green Lantern would be a really cool creative approach that you could do something neat with. I'm a DC kid, so any DC property in general. But like I want to see something special there, or like the return of Titanfall, the return of Rogue Squadron. Any of those would blow my mind. I wouldn't care if they were multi-platform or exclusive. I don't die on those hills very often. I'd rather more people play games usually. But if Rogue Squadron or Titanfall come back, if Crimson Skies makes a return, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Bloodwake while we're at it. Let's go.
Yeah, do it. I'll say this, not Rise 2. Rise was never good, and we need to stop it.
You're riling people up. You're riling people up with that one.
I see Matt Valdez in there. I know what he did to me with Double Downs. I'm over it. Not happening. I'm coming after you, Matt Valdez. I'm just kidding. I love you.
Dang. Okay. Well, Rise. I know. Again, people want Rise. People want Rise 2. People want Scalebound 2.
Recore. Bring back Recore. I loved Recore.
Bring back Recore and actually give it a budget. Come on.
Crackdown. I stopped Miles in his tracks.
Listen. I've been very apologetic to Crackdown, but Xbox has had more than enough chances with that. Yep. I think it's
Crackdown 4 needs to exist and be a shadow drop, and nobody needs to know what's happening. It needs to be good. That's the only way you bring it back.
Okay, yeah, just no marketing whatsoever. Just
no marketing.
And it needs to be a 10 out of 10. And then maybe we can talk about the future of the Crackdown franchise. But for now, I think it's buried out back. They said, hey, Crackdown, you served us well over the years. I'm sorry things ended this way. Terry Crews, thank you for your service, but I think this is where we part ways. The one thing that I want to see that I don't think we'll see is Killer Instinct, unfortunately.
Okay.
What I want more than anything is that guitar lick to come in, the and then the lights hit. But probably not. Probably not this year, but I do want to believe that Killer Instinct is being cooked up somehow, some way from some team, especially like you said, with Tekken hitting, Street Fighter 6 hitting, Mortal Kombat 1 hitting. Fighting games are huge right now, and all of the fighting games that are out are amazing. Like the fighting game genre has really come into its own and become this just staple part of the gaming space again. It's always been there. It's always been, much like the other genres we've talked about earlier, a fairly niche thing, but I feel like it's blowing up into the mainstream in a big way. And I think Killer Instinct was incredible when they did the reboot and they did season 2, and they just had amazing characters and amazing environments and fantastic music. I look at that and say, what? I know Iron Galaxy got acquired or something, or there was some partnership deal, but I look at Killer Instinct and say, Xbox, why'd you fumble that? It was so good. It was so good. The fighting game community loved it. The Xbox community loved it. You tied in Xbox mascots into this, and then you just let it fade. You let the goodwill and energy and momentum fade, and I want to believe those days are done with Xbox, and I hope that the reason that maybe they haven't brought it back yet is they want to make sure that they have a team who can commit to it longer term. And so that way we don't have to worry about, oh, Killer Instinct rules, but it's going to be 6 years before you get anything else. Sorry.
I can't argue any of that painful rhetoric that you just offered.
I know. It hurts. It hurts, bro. Okay. I was hoping to keep this show on the shorter side, but we've already blasted past 2 hours here. And I am getting ready to go on to Boxenberger's Mega Predictions episode, which I think is happening now. I think it started a little bit ago. So I'm going to immediately transition over to that. So if you are watching live and want to check that out, feel free to tune in. Before we get on out of here, Luke, for the amazing people joining us, one more time, let these awesome folks know where they can find you.
Hey, really and truly, guys, if you enjoy Xbox, I'd love for you to check out the Xbox Expansion Pass. That is the show for you. We bleed green. We love the genre. We love games. We don't spend our time dumping on other people. Xbox Expansion Pass. There's a lot more places you can find me, but that's what I'd love you guys to do. Go check it out, see if it's for you, and support us over there.
And again, a huge shout out to you for hanging out at the pre-Xbox Game Showcase. Huge shout out to all the people who watch live and listen after the fact. Again, if you are listening after the fact this week, you have the privilege of dunking on all of our predictions that we got wrong. But sorry about the timing. It's just the way it works out is prediction show right before the big event. And the audio version goes live the day after the big event. So it is what it is. But appreciate all of you. Have an amazing week. Enjoy that Xbox Game Showcase. And we'll catch you next week. Take care, everybody.